in the perimeter screen game, UCLA blocked us and then broke tackles and got yards in chunks when they were throwing the ball behind the line of scrimmage. That shouldn't happen. And so we missed some tackles the other night that were not characteristic of us in the open field that enabled them to get some explosive plays. Those three things really, to me, is what stood out the most.
You know, Sark, and, for me, on the positive side, Justin Wilcox getting a lot of criticism this year for different aspects, of the game. But one of them wasn't blitzing a lot. But one thing you guys did show that did work, actually, early on in the game was you sent some blitzes that made Hundley feel uncomfortable, especially, at the beginning. How did that sort of unfold as the game progressed? Because the first pick six that Sorrow got was off of a corner blitz. And then there was some situations where they were sort of unsettling for Hundley, especially early in that game.
Yeah, there were. And, part of our strategy, obviously, was going into the game was we didn't want Brett to run the football. I mean, that is the hardest thing to stop is when you have a mobile quarterback and he can really run. There's a variety of ways to not allow him to do that. One, you send blitzers at him, and he either has to get rid of the football or you're going to sack him. And so that was part of it. Two, when you rush to build a cage so you keep him in the pocket and don't allow him to scramble, which I thought was really effective as well. And then three, when they go to the zone read package, you give him a give read. You make him give the ball, and then you have to go tackle the running back. And so I thought we did all three of those things really well the other night. The one touchdown run he has, it's unfortunate. We sent two blitzers off the edge. The second blitzer hesitated for a second. Brett took advantage of it. Bang, there's a 25-yard touchdown run. Right. So I think it just goes to show you have to keep doing things right down after down after down to contain a really good player like a Brett Hundley.
Yeah, and you mentioned that this game a little bit was decided up front, and you've talked about some things going forward, which is trying to bring back a toughness to this team, which maybe is difficult to do given the number of circumstances. That'll get improved over the next few years. So how do you correlate that by improving, the physicality of the team?
Well, you have to practice it, I think, I always will give so much credit to Lane and Ed and the job they did in recruiting some unbelievable players that we get to coach. But also there was a balancing act of how do we practice to keep these guys, healthy and fresh, and we've been dealing with that as well. I think that we do a really good job on Tuesdays of having really hard-nosed physical practices, but I have to be aware of the fact Wednesday and Thursday of I got to make sure we're ready to play. Moving forward, you get 25 more scholarship players, and then another 25 in 2 years from now. You really can start to really have those physical practices over an extended period of time throughout spring ball, throughout training camp that are important. And I look at the game the other night, and I see three true freshman offensive linemen. Those guys are going to be really good players for us, and they're going to understand how to pick up stunts and twists. They'll block the Kenny Clarks and the Owas of the world better moving forward. And so good learning lesson for us. Obviously not happy about the outcome or the way we played because I think we're capable of much more. But we'll learn from it, and we'll get better.
Another thing that, was really the sort of the glaring surprise, and not because of the game he played, because we're just so used to Cody being so much better and efficient. What did UCLA do to sort of maybe throw him off kilter or something he didn't, hadn't seen? Why wasn't he the normal Cody Kessler?
Well, it's like anything. One, when you get pressure on a quarterback, I've been there before. We've all, guys who have been back there holding the ball. When you start getting hit a couple times, you can get a little bit gun shy, and I don't think that was totally it. For whatever reason, there were some shots early in the game where he just didn't pull the trigger like we've been accustomed to seeing him pull the trigger the last 6 weeks, where he's been letting it rip to George Farmer or Nelson or Juju down the field. And I think Cody, when he looks at the film and he went back and looked at it and said, geez, I wish I would have done X, Y, and Z a little bit different. I'm no different as the coach and the play caller, too. I mean, that's all part of analyzing a ball game and wanting to play better and perform better. I think there were some shots in the first quarter and the first half that he would have loved to let it rip down the field and see if those guys could have made a play one-on-one.
Sometimes we'll call a great receiver a quarterback's security blanket. I'm wondering, did you see him sort of reverting when he got into pressure to, where's Nelson, because he does have that great relationship? Did you see him focusing too much on Nelson, or was it just, there weren't other things open?
No, I don't think so. And we didn't really, from a play calling standpoint. I mean, UCLA, they've got good coaches. We know they're going to be aware of where 15 is, and I think that's why you saw Juju have some big plays for us down the field. We tried to incorporate Bryce Dixon a little bit more. You saw Buck catching the ball out of the backfield, Justin Davis. So we tried to make sure that the ball was going to get spread around. Cody, there was times where maybe he probably could have thrown it to a more of a primary read and decided to get to a secondary and even a third read in his progression, which sometimes that works great. Other times, hey, let's just throw it to the primary target, which Nelson was on some of those that he didn't throw it to him on. So all in all, it just wasn't our night, and that's going to happen sometimes in football. I don't like accepting it. I don't like saying it. The next time we play them a year from now, I want to make sure it is our night, and we got to do everything in our power to make sure that it is from a preparation standpoint.
But isn't also part of it? Like you said, it's a learning process for everybody. You got a lot of young guys. They have to learn how to play in big games. Isn't that sort of part of it?
I think you're right on, JJ. And I've been, I'm already working on kind of the review of the season so that it's fresh in my mind. And I think about some of these fourth quarters that we've been in. And I think about this game that we were just in, and as I'm preparing for this game Saturday with our team, at the biggest moments, that's when we should be at our best. And so far this season, we haven't been. And that, to me, is an area of huge improvement for us as we move forward as a program. Because we're plenty capable of it. And that should be when we perform at our best, at the most critical moments or in the most critical games. And that's something that we're going to have to work on to get better at for us to take that next step to the elite level again.
Well, the beauty of coaching at USC, you get finished with one rival, you get right back up, and you got to play another one Saturday afternoon in the Coliseum. It's Notre Dame coming to town. We'll talk to Sark about the Irish next.